I can't go back to you, my friend. Don't even ask, don't play pretend.
Enough of this nonsense, Harry. Emily's dissatisfied voice came from behind the closed door. I've already explained to you that I'm not obliged to justify my actions. What you think is solely your own problem. Do you mean to say that your, let's say, affair, which you started last year, is still ongoing, and I have no right to express my opinion on this matter? Harry, her husband, exclaimed indignantly. You casually trample on my feelings, and you couldn't care less. I can't believe you're still having these parties. Behind my back, Emily, please, reconsider. It's ridiculous considering our age. You may consider yourself old if you so desire, but personally, I'm still an interesting, attractive woman whom other men admire, retorted his wife with a snort. Lowering his voice, Harry began to say something, but the woman decided she had had enough of discussions for today. Opening the door to the kitchen, she swiftly exited and headed toward the guest room where her clothes were kept. Are you planning to go somewhere? Her husband followed her, but Emily casually waved him off. Not yet. I want to pick out an outfit for a walk. Elizabeth will be dropping by soon. And you, stop fussing. You're getting in the way. Which Elizabeth are you talking about? Harry became wary. Is it the same one with 3 kids who was trying to convince you to divorce me? That's the one, his wife replied nonchalantly. As you can see, I'm still here. If you keep complaining like this, we'll definitely split up. And it will be your fault, not Elizabeth's. She turned her back to her husband, indicating that the discussion was closed. Their only daughter, Nika, peeked into the room. Upon seeing her father's troubled expression, she understood that something akin to an argument was happening between her parents. She caught some words from their conversation, but pretended not to notice. She wanted to reassure herself that nothing serious had happened. However, judging by her father's dejected expression, she had to bid farewell to hopes of a peaceful family atmosphere. Nika always remembered her mother as a very assertive and demanding woman. She knew how to pick and negotiate the best conditions for herself. Apparently, her fantastic self-confidence constantly attracted men's attention. Harry wasn't particularly fond of this situation lately, especially after he learned the unpleasant truth about his beloved wife, who had casually admitted to having a secret admirer on the side. The girl recalled how this story began. A year ago, Emily announced that she wanted to start going to the fitness center to swim in the pool. I've gained some weight. I need to remember my youth, the woman said, examining her reflection in the mirror. Nika smiled. Mom, you look fantastic. Who would say you're almost 60? Don't remind me of my age, the woman grimaced. And besides, age is just a number. What matters more is how old I feel. And by my feelings, I'm not that old right now. So, I'll go, show myself off, look at others. Emily wasn't accustomed to idle talk. She said she'd go to the pool, and she did. Moreover, she took a long time carefully selecting a swimsuit that accentuated her ample bust and slim waist. Emily was proud that she managed to maintain herself in good shape at not a young age. If I didn't take care of myself, I'd have been a huge ant of size 70 by now, she coquettishly said. But now, everything's in place. Who would guess I'm 60 by looking at my figure? Mom's on fire today, Nika remarked with a laugh. Oh, I'm afraid she'll come back from that pool not alone, but with a whole bunch of hot admirers. Dad will have competitors. What are you talking about? Emily chuckled. My Harry is beyond competition. Just look at how slim, handsome, and young he looks, and how caring. There are no words. The parents exchanged glances, and Nika, with affection, noted to herself how lovingly they looked at each other. Well done, Mom, the girl thought. She loves Dad so much that they even went to church to get married. Harry wasn't overly religious and didn't have a burning desire to get married. But Emily knew how to insist on her own way and got her husband's consent. Now we are married before God. the woman proclaimed when they returned from the church. "This is very important to me, dear." As Nika could see, the parents' feelings towards each other seemed to experience a new spring of love. They looked at each other with undisguised tenderness, always trying to be closer, often laughing and teasing each other. Harry called his wife an appetizing bun, and she called him an irresistible charmer. The latter nickname genuinely amused Nika. "Oh yes, Dad is such a charmer. He spends his whole life trying to charm the only woman. Not just one." The father leaned back. "Two. You as my daughter should also be crazy about me." "Of course, I've been crazy about you since birth," confirmed Nika, and all three laughed. Once Harry arranged a romantic dinner for Emily at a restaurant she had long dreamed of visiting. Because there played a famous pianist known throughout the city, whose virtuoso performance thrilled all music lovers. But you could only get there by prior arrangement with the owner. "I have no idea how he did it, but I went to listen to this wizard's play afterwards," dreamily said Emily. "It was something phenomenal, simply indescribable. It means I'm not living in vain." Next was a surprise in the form of a trip to a mountain resort, where Emily returned full of impressions of the landscape and the pure, frosty air. "Such beauty all around," she recounted. "You just open your eyes in the morning, and before you, a magnificent view from the mountain. All around is white. In the distance you can see pink peaks illuminated by the sun's rays, and between them, strips of coniferous forest. You can sit there for eternity, admiring this unearthly picture." But a few months later, her tone changed, and not only her husband noticed it. Nika was also unpleasantly surprised by how her mother began to behave towards her husband. Dismissively, as if doing a favor, she answered his questions. If he said something to her, she rolled her eyes. Nika remembered that this happened around the time when she saw her mother in the spring, walking arm in arm with some man. He was quite tall, young-looking, with a broad smile. Emily literally glowed next to him. She and her companion winked at Nika, and when she returned home, the girl told about seeing her mother with some unfamiliar man. When her mother returned, Nika joked, "Look who you're hanging out with without Dad." "Dad, Mom has a suitor. Can you imagine?" "I can imagine," smiled Harry, tenderly looking at his wife. "Someone like your mom has plenty of suitors. Look at the beauty I live with." The parents and daughter laughed fondly at that encounter, and everything was forgotten. The spouses continued to discuss news and events the same way. But lately it was noticeable that Emily was trying to distance herself from her husband. She seemed to have erected an invisible but firm wall between herself and Harry, through which the man could not break. "Darling, what would you like with your tea?" the husband asked, standing near the front door. Emily threw him an indifferent look and replied, "We've been together for so many years, and you still don't remember what I like?" "I know what you like," the husband replied peaceably. "I just don't want to guess wrong. What if I take the wrong thing?" "Well then, take whatever you want." Emily turned away, showing with her whole demeanor that she was tired of empty conversation. "I don't care anyway. You know my preferences." Perplexed, Harry walked away, pondering on the strange changes in his wife's behavior. She rarely gets irritated enough to respond in such a tone. Although, there's no irritation in her voice today. Rather, on the contrary, indifference. She's bored with him, clearly bored and melancholic. Why? The answer came naturally. She has someone else. Memory immediately dredged up from the distant corners the laughing face of his daughter, saying that Mom has some admirer, and Emily's reaction was quite adequate, with laughter and jokes. She always knew how to quickly change the subject if she didn't like something. That time, too, his wife instantly shifted the conversation to another topic, which looked perfectly natural. Vlad felt a sudden weakness in his legs. "She was already leading me by the nose then. Almost a year has passed. At that time, the attempt to talk to Emily ended in a complete failure. The woman laughed, looking at her husband in the face. "Have you gone mad to think such things about me? I'm just having a personal crisis right now. It's scary to think that years are passing and what about you?" Harry looked attentively at his wife. "And I. Like in the joke when a woman wasn't allowed into heaven because she didn't cheat on her husband. The apostle told her that no one prevented her. If she didn't take advantage of the opportunity, then she's stupid. And if so, then there's no heaven, only hell. In hell, there is a separate cauldron for those who enjoy strolling and for those who skillfully lie." Harry replied coldly, turning away. He almost never allowed himself to raise his voice to his wife, and she wouldn't allow it either. Her nature was too dominant to reconcile with someone expressing grievances to her, even if justified. Emily looked grimly at him, then stared at the screen of the huge television, a gift from her husband on the occasion of their 30th anniversary. The spouses sat side by side on the same couch, ignoring each other. The woman replayed in her mind the last encounter with the one who gave her this intoxicating feeling of her own attractiveness and power over a man. His name was Mark, and he was once in the military. His officer bearing was evident: a straight posture, broad shoulders, a light and precise step. Glimpsing at her husband's furrowed brows, the woman pondered how sometimes she felt weary of him. He loved her too much, didn't want to show his own character, and generally just feared breathing in her direction, so as not to give her a reason to be offended. Emily had always been touchy, finding it difficult to forgive those who had once caused her pain or simply displeasure. Not even Nikki could boast that her mother didn't show when she was displeased with her daughter's words or behavior. When a husband is too compliant and willing to do anything for his beloved wife, it turns out it can be boring too. Mark appeared at the pool the same day as Emily. The woman, flaunting her shapely figure, descended into the water and lazily floated on her back. Mark watched her from afar for a while, then dared to approach closer. Emily couldn't remember exactly what question he asked her, but her own reaction astonished her. Her heart suddenly beat faster and more often. A pleasant excitement arose in her chest, and her lips formed a mysterious and flirtatious smile. It had been a long time since she had treated her dear husband like this. Mark couldn't help but notice the charm and magnificent figure of his new acquaintance. Emily tried to give herself as much mystery and inaccessibility as possible, but from the man's gaze, she understood that he perfectly understood her. To leave or to stay? She agonized after he suggested walking along the embankment with him. It was there that Nikki saw them, but it happened during the period when Emily and Mark were already chatting away like old friends. Their relationship had not yet grown into another area, which quietly saddened Emily. She increasingly imagined herself in Mark's embrace rather than her husband's, and the day came when her fantasies became reality. Emily herself didn't understand at what moment she decided to betray her beloved husband, to whom she had given her word to cherish before the altar. Mark was so irresistible with his masculinity that Emily realized she would never forgive herself if she missed the opportunity to spend a few hours with this stunning man. Emily's body seemed to float on waves of pleasure and complete relaxation. The woman returned home after her date with a happy smile on her face. She even started humming, which was almost unheard of for her. Nikki noticed her mother's serene look and began to speculate on what had happened. For a while, Emily even stopped scolding her husband, expressing her dissatisfaction, and began to address him as before, calling him either the man of her dreams or dear. The simple-minded husband decided that his beloved had finally let go and happily began to shower her with compliments and gifts. Emily's meeting with Mark was missed once, and that was enough for her to withdraw into herself and start terrorizing her husband again. "You couldn't clean up after yourself? Is it an impossible task without servants, huh?" the woman asked sarcastically. Pointing to the yellowed rim of the cup, she inquired, "Was this intentional? To test my nerves, or did you have another brilliant plan?" "Emily, what's going on?" Harry jumped up from his seat, worried, and approached his wife. She recoiled from him in fear. "I wasn't going to lay a finger on you. Why are you like this?" The man was shocked by her behavior. Emily looked at him, furious with herself. She couldn't admit that she was incredibly irritated by the smell of the person she had been married to for almost 30 years. Such a reaction came from her after meeting Mark. There was a scent emanating from him that drove the woman crazy, urging her to be as close as possible. However, Emily, being a not foolish woman, decided to figure out whether it was worth continuing the relationship. The reason was that Mark never voiced his plans regarding their future together. When Emily jokingly or seriously asked what they would do next, the answer was always the same. "Let's go home and indulge in pleasant memories." Emily invited Mark to a frank conversation, which was difficult for both of them. Mark sighed in response to her direct question. "Why complicate our lives? You have a loving and beloved husband, and I am not free either. We both just need a breather, a break from family life. Nothing more. Or, do you want to say that we need to get married? Then the end will come to the magic that is happening between us now." "Excellent," Emily replied. She realized she could hear such words. "So, be it then. I'm tired of all this dragging on with uncertainty, so let's each go our separate ways and pretend none of this ever happened. You'll return to your wife, I'll go back to my husband. And that's it. Speak as you wish." Mark's voice lacked any emotion. Apparently, he too was tired of playing the game of conspiracy. Emily had cried for half the evening, locked in the bathroom filled with fragrant foam. So, it was all over now. Those dull evenings with Harry would return, him gazing at her with puppy-love eyes. And with Nikki, who didn't understand that at 21 it was time to stop pretending to be a little girl and start living like an independent adult. "I'm suffocating," Emily told herself and plunged her head underwater. A strange thought came to her mind. What if people, like in a famous fairy tale, could turn into foam? Then she would dissolve in the water for a while, unnoticed. How would Harry behave then? Mark disappeared from the horizon for half a year. He reappeared at the moment Emily confessed everything to her husband, yet didn't rush to ask for forgiveness for her infidelity. Harry suffered deeply and sincerely, trying to hide the pain in everyday affairs, staying late at work. He struggled to resist the urge to call his wife to ask how her day was going. Then he scolded himself. She didn't deserve it because she betrayed him. She did what he didn't even dare to think about. Well, that was Harry for you. He never pulls the cat's tail. If she wanted something, she would just go and get it, no matter the cost. It was her determination and perseverance that Harry admired, being less assertive in that regard. Nikki struggled too. She saw how her father suffered, how painfully he experienced the truth that he tried to keep to himself. Her mother's behavior terribly irritated the girl. "Of course, my mommy is always right, because there is her opinion and the wrong one," Nikki fumed. "If she thought it was okay to disregard my husband's feelings, then she doesn't care what happens to him. And Dad is already worn out. Where was I looking before? I saw that man shamelessly hugging her, and she didn't even think to remove his hands from her shoulder. And why? Because she had her plans for him, she didn't even think about Dad. Traitor. How I hate her for it. There are just no words." Harry felt like a robot, mechanically performing familiar tasks. He woke up early in the morning, had breakfast, went to work, went to the store for groceries in the evening, cooked dinner, ate, watched TV, took a shower, and went to bed. And so, every day. Now he sleeps in proud solitude on the couch in the living room. Nikki often hears from her room how her father tosses and turns for a long time, walks from corner to corner, sighs. When his wife appears, He either goes for a walk or pretends to be busy with something. The problem is, Emily doesn't care anyway. She looks at her husband with indifference, eats dinner alone. After cleaning up, she returns to the bedroom and chats with someone on the phone. And at that time, a flirtatious smile wanders across her face, a smile that only one person should see. But that person is not Harry. The spouses can spend the whole day under the same roof without exchanging a single word, as if there's no second, different person anymore. Lord, enlighten my parents, Nikki whispers, folding her hands in prayer. Let them stop tormenting each other and talk like normal people. How do they not feel that just one spark is enough, and there will be a monstrous explosion? Who will be torn apart first then? Please, prevent this from happening. Meanwhile, Emily, thinking that no one hears her, was sweetly chatting with someone on the phone. Nikki only caught a part of her mother's words. As usual, pretending to be an offended, puffed-up turkey disgusting to look at. If he can't stand it, let him file for divorce. Why don't I? Nikki will get married. Who will bring me a glass of water in my old age? Harry is perfect for that, but the daughter is no longer, because she has always been on her husband's side, and she even looks like him, like two peas in a pod. Yeah, my mom is quite calculating, the girl thought. She felt extremely awkward. She couldn't tell her father what she had heard. On the other hand, keeping silent would also be wrong. What to do then? It's so complicated. It's tearing me apart. Nikki sank into a chair, realizing that she wouldn't be able to torment her father with such words. Poor Dad. And so Emily and Harry live. One takes advantage, the other, cowardly.